Hey there, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're always talking about confidence around here, but today we're going to look at it from a whole new angle. We're going to explore how culture, your background and where you're from, can actually shape how confident you feel.
It's true. I mean, think about it. The values we grow up with, the traditions we're surrounded by, all of that stuff can have a huge impact on how we see ourselves and how we interact with the world, definitely.
Right. So we've got this awesome article from DigyKeys. It's called How Does Cultural Background Influence Confidence Levels?
Mhm.
And I think this is going to be a really eye-opening deep dive.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to uncover all sorts of hidden influences, like how different cultures view confidence, how those views can actually clash sometimes.
Oh, yeah. I bet there are some serious cultural misunderstandings when it comes to confidence.
For sure. And we'll also talk about how understanding all of this, like how culture plays into it, can help you navigate a diverse world with more confidence, of course.
Okay, so let's dive in. The article starts by talking about how cultural identity, that feeling of belonging to a particular group, can be a major confidence booster.
Yeah. It's like having this deep well of strength to draw from when you feel connected to your roots. Whether it's through traditions or language or values, it just creates a sense of stability and belonging. And that connection can be incredibly empowering.
So it's more than just knowing where you come from.
Right. Exactly.
About really feeling that connection.
Yeah, it's like, think about it this way. There is this study, well, a few studies actually, that have shown that people who have a strong cultural identity, they tend to be more resilient, especially when things get tough.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're able to bounce back from setbacks more easily, because they have this foundation of support from their communities, from those traditions, and shared cultural practices.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like if you know you have a safety net, you're more willing to take risks and maybe step outside your comfort zone.
Exactly. And it's not just about dealing with challenges either. Cultural identity can actually boost your self-perception, make you feel good about yourself.
Oh yeah, how so?
Well, think about all those cultural traditions that celebrate achievements, like graduation ceremonies or religious rites of passage,
Yeah.
or even just family gatherings where they highlight your accomplishments.
I see.
It's like your culture is giving you a pat on the back, like saying, hey, we see you, we value you, and we're proud of what you've done.
That's a great way to put it. And that kind of validation from your community, from your culture, it can have a huge impact on your self-esteem, for sure.
For sure. But here's where things get really interesting. The article talks about how different cultures actually view confidence itself. And this is where things can get a little, well,
Tricky.
tricky is a good word for it, because what might seem super confident in one culture might be seen as totally inappropriate in another.
Oh, I bet. That makes a lot of sense.
Right. A perfect example of this is the difference between individualistic and collectivist cultures. These different cultural values, they actually shape how people define and express confidence.
Okay, I'm all ears. So what are individualistic cultures all about?
Well, think about places like the US, Western Europe. They really emphasize individual achievement, independence, and standing out from the crowd.
It's the whole be yourself kind of thing.
Exactly. It's about showing off your unique qualities and celebrating personal success.
So in those cultures, confidence might look like someone speaking up in a meeting, taking risks, or really going after their own goals, even if it means going against the grain a bit.
Totally. It's that go-getter attitude, that self-reliance that's often linked with confidence in individualistic cultures.
Makes sense.
Now, on the other hand, you have collectivist cultures, and these are more common in Asia, Latin America, and parts of Africa.
Okay, so how do they view confidence? Is it the opposite of individualistic cultures?
It is, in a way, yeah. In collectivist cultures, confidence is often tied to group success and harmony. It's not so much about getting recognition for yourself, it's more about how your actions contribute to the well-being of the whole group, whether that's your family or your community or your team at work.
So let's say you're in a workplace that's got more of a collectivist culture. Confidence there might not be the person who's the loudest voice in the room.
Right.
It might be the person who's quietly making sure everyone feels heard, or the one who's supporting their colleagues behind the scenes, right?
Absolutely. And it's often expressed through humility, supporting others, and putting the group's needs ahead of your own.
I like that.
Yeah, and here's a real mind blower. The article points out that this difference in cultural values, individualism versus collectivism, it can actually affect people's self-esteem.
Wait, really? So where you're from can actually impact how good you feel about yourself.
It's pretty wild.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, so studies have shown that people in individualistic cultures, they often report higher levels of self-esteem. compared to those in collectivist cultures. And researchers think this difference might be because of that cultural emphasis on individual achievement, versus group harmony. It's like how we're raised, the values we're taught, it can have a big impact on how we see our own worth.
That's incredible. It's like culture is this invisible force shaping our confidence, even at a really basic level.
It really is. And it's a good reminder that confidence isn't just something you're born with. It's shaped by everything around you, your upbringing, and all those cultural norms you're exposed to.
So we've talked about cultural identity as this foundation for confidence and how individualism versus collectivism can shape how we see confidence. But the article goes deeper into how cultural values actually define what success means. And I think that's a key part of this whole puzzle.
Oh, absolutely. Because if confidence is often tied to achieving success, then we really need to understand how different cultures define success to understand how they approach confidence.
Yeah, totally. So let's say you're in a very achievement-oriented culture. What does success look like there?
Well, think about the classic signs of success. A big promotion at work, getting public recognition, hitting those ambitious goals, maybe even getting your name on a plaque somewhere.
Right. So in those environments, confidence often comes from always pushing for more, pushing boundaries, and getting recognized for your individual achievements. It's about proving yourself through those external markers of success.
Exactly. But in collectivist cultures, success can look totally different. It might be about fulfilling family obligations, supporting projects in the community, or just maintaining strong relationships within the group. Success is measured by how much you give back to the collective good.
So confidence in those cultures might come from being a reliable member of the group, putting others first, and making sure the whole group is harmonious.
Exactly. And you can see how these different definitions of success can lead to really different ways of expressing confidence. But here's the thing, and it's important to remember, neither approach is perfect. They both have their downsides.
Oh, for sure. It's not all sunshine and roses either way.
Right. In individualistic settings, there can be a ton of pressure to outperform, to always be striving for more, and that can lead to burnout and even a fragile sense of self-worth if you don't get those external validations you're looking for.
And what about collectivist cultures? What are some of the challenges there?
Well, the pressure to conform to the group's expectations can be really strong. Individuals might feel like they can't pursue their own goals, or they might hesitate to speak their mind. If it's going to disrupt the harmony of the group, it's like walking a tightrope, trying to balance your own aspirations with what your culture expects of you.
It sounds like finding that balance is key.
It really is. And understanding these cultural nuances can help you navigate different situations with more sensitivity and awareness. But there's one more layer to all of this, and it's something the article calls the unspoken rules of confidence.
Ooh, that sounds kind of mysterious, like a secret society of confidence or something.
Uh-huh. Not quite. But these are the cultural norms, those unwritten rules of behavior that tell you what's considered appropriate or desirable in a particular society, and they play a big role in how we see ourselves and how we express confidence.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Can you give us an example?
Sure. The article talks about research that shows how white Western women tend to feel less confident about their bodies compared to Black Nigerian and Chinese women.
Wow, that's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that.
It's fascinating, right? And it just shows how different societies have totally different beauty standards and expectations around body image, and that can really impact how people feel about themselves and their level of confidence.
So it's not just about individual personality. It's about how your culture shapes what you value and what you see as confident.
Exactly. Confidence can look totally different depending on the culture. In some cultures, it might be about being assertive and outspoken, while in others, it might be about humility and quiet strength.
Right, and misreading those cultural cues can lead to some awkward moments, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. Someone who's really direct and assertive might be seen as confident in one culture, but then come across as rude or arrogant in another.
Exactly. And that's where this awareness of cultural differences becomes super valuable. So far, we've covered a lot. We've talked about how cultural identity builds confidence, how individualism versus collectivism affects self-esteem, how different cultures define success, and those fascinating unspoken rules of confidence. It's like we've peeled back all the layers of this cultural onion of confidence.
We have, and there's still more to discover. The article gives us some great strategies for boosting confidence across cultures, but we'll dive into those in part 2 of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, because I'm really looking forward to getting into those actionable tips. All right, so we're back and ready to tackle those confidence-boosting strategies, the ones that work across different cultures.
Yes. The article outlines 5 key strategies. and I think you'll find them really insightful.
Okay, hit me with strategy number 1.
It all starts with cultural self-awareness. We've been talking about how much culture influences us, often without us even realizing it. So becoming more aware of our own cultural background is like step 1.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like figuring out our own personal confidence blueprint.
Exactly. The article encourages us to think about how our upbringing, the values we learned, the traditions we experienced, how all of that shaped our own confidence. What did you get praised for growing up? What behaviors were encouraged or discouraged? Think about those things.
Yeah, it's like taking inventory, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out where our strengths are and maybe some blind spots we might have based on our cultural background. Okay, so cultural self-awareness is the foundation. What's next? What's number 2?
Adapting communication styles. And this is a big one.
Communication is always key, but especially when you're working with people from different backgrounds, right?
Exactly. And the article points out that communication styles can be totally different across cultures. For example, in individualistic cultures, being direct and assertive is often valued. Clear messages, speaking your mind, advocating for yourself.
That's often seen as confident, yeah.
But that same style might not work so well in a collectivist culture.
It could even be seen as rude, I bet.
Right. In collectivist cultures, indirect communication might be preferred, to keep things harmonious and avoid confrontation.
So it's about being more subtle, reading between the lines a bit.
Exactly. It's not that people in those cultures lack confidence, they just express it differently.
Right, they have their own way of doing things.
And being able to adapt your communication style is so important when you're working with people from different cultures. It's about meeting people where they are, understanding their preferences.
It's like learning a new language.
You got it. It's about being fluent in confidence no matter the cultural context. Ready for strategy number 3?
Absolutely. What is it?
Celebrating achievements in ways that are culturally relevant. Remember how we talked about how different cultures define success, what they consider worthy of celebrating?
Yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, for sure.
Right. In individualistic cultures, public recognition can be super motivating. Like those Employee of the Month awards or bonuses. Those things feed into that individualistic desire for recognition.
But those same gestures might not have the same impact in a collectivist culture, right?
Totally. In those cultures, it might be better to celebrate team achievements or highlight how someone's work helped the whole group succeed. It's about emphasizing the collective effort rather than focusing on individuals.
Yeah, so if you're leading a team with people from different backgrounds, you really need to think about how you celebrate success. What might boost one person's confidence could fall flat for someone else.
It's all about being sensitive to those cultural differences. All right, strategy number 4.
Lay it on me.
Fostering inclusivity in teams.
Ah, yes, teamwork. And nowadays, teams are so diverse.
Exactly. And the article really emphasizes how important it is to create a team environment where everyone feels safe to speak up, no matter their background. A truly inclusive environment.
Just that feeling of belonging, of knowing your voice matters, I think that could be such a confidence booster.
It can be transformative. It's about encouraging open communication, active listening, making sure diverse viewpoints are heard. It's about realizing that everyone brings something unique to the table.
And those differences make the team stronger.
Right, exactly. It's about building each other up, not tearing each other down. Okay, are you ready for the last one?
Yeah, bring it on. What's the final strategy?
Engaging in multicultural learning experiences. And this one might be my favorite.
Oh, tell me more. I'm always up for trying new things and learning about other cultures.
It's all about pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zones and actively looking for experiences that expose us to different cultures.
So what kinds of things are we talking about here?
It could be traveling to a new country, attending a cultural event in your own city, or even just talking to someone from a different background.
It's about opening ourselves up to new perspectives.
Right. And those experiences can be really powerful. They help us become more adaptable, more resilient, and they give us a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world.
Which in turn can boost our confidence, especially when we're interacting with people from different cultures.
Absolutely. It's about realizing that diversity is a good thing, a strength. It's about embracing those differences and using them to our advantage.
So to sum it all up, we have these 5 amazing strategies for boosting confidence across cultures. Cultural self-awareness, adapting communication styles, celebrating achievements in culturally relevant ways, creating inclusive teams, and seeking out multicultural experiences.
It's a great toolkit for anyone who wants to navigate our increasingly diverse world with confidence and, with respect for others.
Absolutely. Well said. Okay, folks, that wraps up part 2 of our deep dive into confidence and culture. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with part 3, where we'll talk about how to apply all of this to your own life. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into confidence and culture. We've been talking about all these fascinating connections between where we come from and how confident we feel.
It's really amazing how much our upbringing and those values we kind of absorb without even thinking about it, how much all that shapes our confidence.
Right. And we've also learned some pretty awesome strategies for boosting our confidence across cultures. But before we wrap up, I'd love to just step back for a minute and think about the big picture.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
What are some of the biggest takeaways for you from this whole conversation?
Well, for me, one of the biggest things is just how much cultural identity matters. That feeling of belonging, that connection to your roots, it can be such a source of strength.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like having this inner compass that guides you, especially when you're in unfamiliar territory. And it reminds me of that study we talked about, how people who have a strong connection to their culture, they tend to be more resilient when they face challenges.
It's true. It's like knowing you have a support system, even if they're not physically there with you, and that can give you the confidence to take risks, to push yourself outside your comfort zone, because you know you have something to fall back on.
And it's not just about dealing with tough times. It's also about having a positive image of yourself.
Yeah.
All those cultural traditions that celebrate achievements, like graduations or family gatherings that honor your accomplishments.
Exactly. It's like those traditions are constantly giving you these little boosts of confidence, reminding you that you're valued and appreciated by your community.
I love that. But then we have to think about how different cultures view things, right? Like with individualism versus collectivism, that's where things get really interesting, because it shows how even the definition of confidence can change depending on where you are in the world.
It's true. In some cultures, it's all about being assertive and standing out, while in others, it's more about being humble and contributing to the group. It's so important to remember that neither approach is better than the other. They're just different expressions of confidence that come from different values.
Exactly. And then there are those unspoken rules of confidence we talked about, those subtle cultural norms that we might not even be aware of, but they can really affect how we see ourselves and how we interact with others.
Yeah, that example about body image was really eye-opening. It just shows how different cultures have different ideas about what's considered confident or beautiful.
Right. So as we navigate this increasingly interconnected world, being sensitive to those cultural differences becomes even more important. It's about understanding that there are different ways of expressing confidence and that those differences are something to be celebrated.
Absolutely. And those 5 strategies we discussed, those are like our tools for bridging those cultural gaps and building strong relationships with people from all walks of life.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to encourage everyone listening to keep exploring this fascinating topic of confidence and culture. Think about your own background, the values you've inherited, and how all of that has shaped your own sense of confidence.
And remember, confidence is a journey, not a destination. We're all constantly learning and growing, and that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. And if you're looking for more resources to help you on your confidence journey, be sure to check out the Confidence Blueprint on DigyKeys.com. It's packed with practical tips and strategies that can help you boost your confidence in any situation.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast for more deep dives into topics that matter.
Until next time.